Next, we move on to study about Rachel Carson and her work Silent Spring. Rachel Carson was an American scientist, writer, and ecologist, and she was branded as an alarmist and was attacked by the chemical industry for raising her opinions against the malpractices they are committing. And her work, Silent Spring, is often regarded as the book that inspired modern environmental movement. What we have to study from Silent Spring is an extract. It is called A Fable for Tomorrow. In this extract, the author talks about a town that is in the heart of America where life was in harmony and nature was in abundance. Author says that the town was in the middle of prosperous farms with fields of grains and hillsides of orchards, and during spring we could see the white clouds above the green fields. The place was abundant with trees like oak, maple, birch, pines, and in autumn they looked or appeared like flames. Along the roadside there were shrubs like laurel, viburnum, alder, great ferns, and also some white flowers that were perennial throughout the year. In this town, countless birds came to feed on the berries and the seed heads of dried weeds during winter season. The countryside was famous for abundance and its variety of bird life. People traveled from great distances to observe them. Streams that flowed through the town were clear and cold out of the hills and contained a variety of fishes, especially trouts. And some people came in there to fish from the streams. And now the town is inhabited by human beings and they have settled there, houses built and wells and barns. Suddenly, there was some sort of a mysterious disease that affected both the animals and human beings alike. Due to this strange disease, many of the flocks of chickens, cattle, and sheep sickened and died. There were several unexplained deaths, even among children, who would be stricken suddenly while at play and die within a few hours. And the doctors in town had become more and more puzzled by the new kind of sickness that was appearing among their patients. Town now came to a standstill because the birds were gone. The feeding stations in the backyards were deserted. There were few birds to be seen, but the ones found were lifeless and couldn't fly or sing. Earlier, the mornings would begin only with the chorus of robins, catbirds, doves, jays, wrens, and a whole lot of other bird voices, but now there was no sound to be heard. And so, this was a silent spring. Only silence lay over the fields and woods and marsh. Even though the hens brooded, no chicks hatched. The farmers were unable to raise any pigs because the litters were small and the young survived only a few days. The apple trees were coming into bloom, but there were no bees, so no pollination will happen and there would be no fruit. The roadsides, which was once abundant with wildflowers and bushes, were now withered and browned as though swept by fire. The streams were now lifeless, which means that there was no fish to be found in the streams, and so no more fishermen visited them. Author says that before some weeks, a white granular powder had fallen like snow upon the roofs and the fields and streams, and the reminiscence of this white granular powder was still seen on the roofs. The author says that this is no witchcraft or an enemy action, but the result of human actions itself. Here she is talking about chemical used by human beings to produce artificial rain And in that attempt, it has created this chaos, which resulted in the death of countless human beings and flora and fauna. Rachel Carson says that this town does not exist in reality, but she doesn't push away the possibility of these things happening to some towns, at least in the near future. She says that not everything she has mentioned has happened to a single town so far, but every one of these disasters she has mentioned in this extract has actually happened somewhere, and many real communities have already suffered a substantial number of them. And she says that if we continue to be reluctant to preserve and nurture our Mother Earth, these stories will become a stark reality.